Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunday Interview. My guest today is a professor in the field of nematology. He's also an administrator and an author as well. He's a fellow of so many professional bodies within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. My guest is Professor Steve Afolami Olaoluwa. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Can I offer you a seat?
Absolutely.
Good.
But before we do that, let's quickly go on a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Okay.
Welcome back. Like I told you earlier, my guest today is the Vice Chancellor of Augustine University, Professor Steve Olaoluwa Afolami. And of course, I am your host on the show, Azizat Olaoluwa. You're welcome once again. Now, Prof, let's go quickly to ask you about your childhood. How was childhood for you growing up?
Oh, well, I grew up in a village. I call it village, but I'm always corrected to say that a town that is close to 0.6 of a million is not a village.
Ah.
I'm from Oka. I grew up in Oka, Akoko.
In Ondo, right?
In Ondo State.
Okay.
With the valley is called Iwaroka, and the hill is called Okioka. That's my origin, and that's where I schooled. So I grew up in the village for 18 years, primary, secondary, yeah, and all of that until I became an undergraduate.
How was village life for you?
Well, because I grew up in a farming family, it's a mixture of farming and schooling. Okay. My parents are farmers, were farmers. They are gone now, both of them, but they lived up to a very old age. It was a mixture of waking up early, doing your chores, the domestic activities, sometimes going to the farm before you go to school. If there are products to bring home because it's a market day. But all the same, being punctual in the school, because otherwise you get caned. Oh. So it was activity all the way from waking up in the morning till you go to bed.
So did you really have time to really be a child growing up, in a village?
Yes. Growing up was fun because what we had was that we were always with our parents. Because they were farmers, the only separation was between going to school, remaining in school till 2 p.m. or thereabouts. And then after closure, if they were in the farm, you went back to join them in the farm. And you came back home together at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And if they were home, then you went home. Attend first thing to your homework. Not that they could help you because they weren't literate. But then, from then on, once you are through with your homework, you now begin to do their own work.
Wow. From homework to
their to other
own work.
Your parents' work. Because there'll be kernels to crack, there'll be kola nuts to peel, and there will be quite a number of other things to do. And if the parents were not home, maybe after your homework, if you have some friends around, you play some football. But if they came and met you playing football, it meant you were free. And some work has to be going on all the time. So you'll be allocated something to do immediately. So football was not considered something to be done when there was something else to do. So time for soccer and play was only in the absence of maybe the father, because with mom you could do some things, but with dad you had to, something serious had to be going on.
Okay, so give us a peek into your academic background, educational background, up to this point.
Well, primary school 5 years instead of 6, and secondary school education, I think I was highly favored. Favored in the sense that it was the first set of, it was my class that studied science, had biology and chemistry for the first time in the school. There wasn't physics then, but there was a very special mathematics teacher, one Dr. Higati, who devoted all his time to the upper classes. And he taught them so much of mathematics and additional mathematics, which is called, I think now they don't call it additional maths anymore. We used to call it additional maths. But he was so good that those first set of students all ended up as science students because their mathematics was excellent. But in my class, we had biology, chemistry, we didn't have physics. So we could, at the end of our secondary education, we had opportunity to study science and science-based subjects and programs that didn't require physics. So none of us could study medicine because we didn't have physics in school. Okay. But you could go into agriculture, any of the science-based courses, biological sciences also. So the choice was limited in science. But really, I had always wanted to, if I was born into a wealthy family, I probably would have studied English.
Oh, really?
Or mass communication or something, or the humanities. I've always been attracted to philosophy and literature rather than science. But at that time, for you to have scholarship, you had to study science. Okay. I think even now, we are still compelled to make a ratio of 60 of science to 40 of arts and social sciences and management sciences. So I had that natural love for the humanities. But then it was a choice I could make because I think I was, like I said, favored. I had all the required proficiency in all the science subjects that we were taught. Not so good in mathematics because I think the jump from primary 2 to primary, instead of going to primary 3, going to primary 4, I think affected my arithmetic at that time. But at higher level, I coasted along. But science was, I still find myself in science because I'm supervising even now PhD students in spite of being a Vice Chancellor. But my inner love is for philosophy, theology, and things that have to do with human beings.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Tell us about your marriage.
Oh, kids. Yeah. Again, I have been very favored. I'm married to a professor, professor of agricultural economics. She's Caroline by name, pretty, and very rare person to find because of her gifts. She's very gifted. Sometimes I consider her more gifted in many areas than myself. But she's very gifted, very humble, very principled person. We were classmates in the university. We met at the university, but without any formal dating until we were out of university. And we got married 42 years ago.
Wow. Wow. How many kids now?
We had 6 children. One has gone to heaven.
Oh.
2 girls and 4 boys, all of them. The youngest is 30 years already and married.
So are you a grandfather?
I became one only recently on the 31st of March.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. She's a girl, she's Alexandra, a pretty girl.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your favorite meal?
My favorite?
Meal.
Oh, pounded yam. Without having to think, yeah. With a goosey soup.
It's so difficult to come across any Ondo indigene that doesn't like pounded yam.
Yes, because you grow up with it.
Oh.
You know, you grow up with it and you have it every day, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times.
Wow.
Yes. And because the soup that goes with it always was natural, I think you can't grow up with that and not like to eat pounded yam. So even at midnight, if you came home late because you were doing something else, your pounded yam was waiting for you.
Okay. What's your favorite music? The kind of music, the genre, and then with the musician. Okay.
Any good music. But I listen a lot to Ebenezer Obey because of his very philosophical music. The lyrics always contain a lot of wisdom. I enjoy listening to Sonny Ade, to Apala music. I also listened to a lot of sentimental music when I was young. No. New school music puts me very much off because the lyrics are, well, I shouldn't say that on air, but I don't like the lyrics. And because I listen once in a while and see that they make a lot of effort to have rhythm as well as poetry. But, you know, the themes just don't suit my temperament at all. Okay,
so if I asked you to sing for me right now, which song would come to mind?
Which song will come to mind? Many will come to mind.
You can sing one for us, please.
You know, the last Ebenezer Obey I was listening to was the Kete Kete. You know, the man with his son.
No, don't explain it. I want you to sing it.
Kò sọ́gbọ́n tó lè dá, kò síwà tó lè hù, kò sọ́nà tó lè mọ̀, tó lè fi táyé lọ́rùn o. That's the beginning. Ilé ayé fúngbà díẹ̀ ni o, ọmọ aráyé ẹ ṣeré o.
Nice. Thank you very much for that lovely song from Ebenezer Obey. Now, do you drink? And when I ask, I'm not asking about water. I'm asking if you drink alcohol.
Yes, I was going to immediately react, but yes,
so
I would be dead long ago.
I had to clarify.
Yes, I drink. I take things that the occasion calls for.
Okay.
I drink wine if there is, and I do drink a glass of beer or 2 once in a while. But usually people offer me soft drinks. So I always ask them, is it written on my forehead
because you're a professor?
That, you know, is it written on my head that you shouldn't serve me wine or some... So yes, I do. Sometimes people are surprised and I wonder why. I think some people think that deep Christianity does not go with alcohol. But I always tell them that wine is fermented juice. So wine is alcohol. And I do remember that at least in some parts of the scriptures, wine is mentioned. And wine is not juice, it's not bottled juice. Like Eva is not wine. I've always had to correct that because chemistry says that wine is fermented juice. So some people drink more alcohol than people who drink 1 glass of beer because they drink a glass of wine. A glass of wine is about 2 bottles of beer in terms of alcohol content. Yes. So my philosophy on that is that you take what is good for your body and the volume and quantity that is good for your relaxation.
Moderacy.
Yes. But most of the time, I drink my lager or my wine right inside the home.
How do you relax generally?
You know, activity in life is about both relaxing and being busy. But I subscribe to St. Jose Maria's prescription of rest meaning doing something else.
Ah. So once you are not doing anything in line of academic,
yes,
is rest for you?
Rest
is that what you're saying?
Doing something else, yes. Relaxation is change of activities. I play tennis, I swim, and I also enjoy walking, doing some walking around.
Okay, so I have some more questions for you, but that will be after this break. We need to go on a short break at this point. My guest is Professor Steve Olaoluwa Afolami. He is the Vice Chancellor of Augustine University. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Glad to have you back. My guest is Professor Steve Olaoluwa Afolami. Is the Vice Chancellor of Augustine University. Thank you for staying with us on the show.
You're welcome.
Now, there are so many issues really with the springing up of private universities almost everywhere across Nigeria.
Okay.
And there are so many worries. First off is the hike in tuition fees. Private universities are very expensive as compared to public ones. What do you have to say about that?
They are relatively expensive.
Relatively?
Relatively. You see, part of the problem that we have with education in Nigeria is that the country bit more than it could chew. I told you I paid in the village to attend a Catholic secondary school. And during all that period, it wasn't as if the country was richer then than it is now.
Okay.
The money had to be coughed out to attend a good secondary school. Now, so 68 pounds, I told you then. If you translate that to today's Naira, it will be close to what you are charging in some private universities.
Okay.
Here, the highest fee is 760,000 Naira for computer science, payable twice in a year. But you see the structures.
Payable twice in a year.
Twice in a session. And that includes everything, all the beautiful things that you see around, the accommodation and all of that. You see what is on ground here. If this university were to charge, with the hope that in the next 25 years it can begin to recover, it probably will be asking for 2 million Naira from every student. So even the highest fee is still subsidized. Subsidized because, not only because this is a Catholic institution, but also because the philosophy is that the structure must be kept all well and for as long as the university lasts. Everything as we see it now should be maintained. Tidiness costs money, you know. Keeping these grounds every month is over 550,000 to be exact, you know. So, and you cannot have an environment like this and not try to keep it as clean as you can. The classrooms have to be maintained, you know, and good food has to be served. Good lecturers have to be paid. Okay,
so in essence, really, let me just clarify here. In essence, are you saying that all this are not in place in public tertiary institutions?
You see, they are, but government is paying.
Are they not supposed to?
The government is paying. Here,
at the state or federal level?
Here we pay the salaries of every staff.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And small as we are, our salary bill is, you hire a professor, we pay higher here than we pay at the federal government universities, because if you don't, you cannot attract good staff. And the philosophy here is to have staff that are qualified to teach anywhere, even outside Nigeria. they don't come cheap. You have to be able to keep them, and you have to be able to hire them.
Okay.
So all of those considerations and the fact that no subvention comes from anywhere else except from the fees the students pay, and even that, I still receive subvention from the archdiocese every month. The salaries, and I cannot sustain this university with what the students pay. So more than 50% of what we spend annually still comes from the archdiocese.
All right. Does it augur well for any society, really, for private academic institutions to be more than the ones owned by the government of the day?
Yes, I think so. You know, the way it has gone, I came from a public federal university, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta.
UNAB.
Yes, it was my home university. And, you know, it started as with the aim that it wasn't going to go beyond 5,000 students, including postgraduate students. That was what the academic brief specified. But over time, right now, I think the student population is over 15,000. And I'll be surprised if it has managed to sustain the same quality that we were offering at that time. It has now a large number of professors and lecturers and all of that, but the concept changed along the way. And every university is under pressure to admit more students. The government hasn't been able to sustain what it took over. The universities were charging fees. I paid fees as an undergraduate until I had a scholarship. At prelim, you were not likely to have a scholarship. That was my mode of entry. But subsequently, government, either state or federal, will offer you either bursary or a scholarship if you won one. Okay. So even if you were poor and you had the gift, if you were intelligent enough by gift of nature, Nigeria ensured that you didn't suffer.
Okay.
There was hope for you to study, and at a point, those who couldn't have either had loans. And they took loans that I'm not sure that anybody was asked to pay back. I didn't take a loan from government, but we had bursary. That seems
to be the practice abroad anyway.
Yes, yes, yes. So all of those should have been sustained.
Is there anything the government can do really to help improve the education sector?
I think in fairness, they are trying hard now. The effort has been on for the past 10 years or more, or a little more than that. Part of it is to struggle to provide the TED fund, which was an idea suggested by the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, has been exceedingly helpful. Then the effort to rate and rank the universities by the NUC suddenly created an atmosphere that required every university to look nice, you know, and so all the neglect of those years that I spoke about suddenly began to change. There's no university campus you get to now that you would not notice there is an effort for environmental beauty. It differs from place to place depending on how much you are willing to spend. But I'm exceedingly proud now of the University of Ibadan. The Federal University of Agriculture started out with a very fantastic outlay and has maintained it. So everywhere there's the consciousness that this is a university and it has to look like one.
All right, so how was the transition from a dean to a vice chancellor here at Augustine University rather? How was it for you?
Well, I think many people had thought postgraduate school deanship is a pathway to vice chancellorship, because as dean of postgraduate school, you had interaction, official and academic, with all departments of the university that offer postgraduate program. So the only other office that does that in the university is the Vice Chancellor's office. So I think it demands so much hard work to be postgraduate school dean that being Vice Chancellor tends to have to come without too much surprise of what it entails to keep a university together.
So how have you been finding your duties here, and what challenges did you encounter along the way?
I think I've been exceedingly lucky. I have a very friendly atmosphere here. It's a family here. My staff, those who are, I think I'm older than all my staff, except the retired professors who are on contract, a few of them. But, you know, I think I'm like a father definitely to my students, I'm father. And to lots of my younger colleagues, I think I'm also like a father figure. I enjoy the confidence of a lot of them. And, you know, it's going to be hard when I have to leave, because everybody here is my friend one way or the other. And it's all smiles. And the beauty of it all also is that people don't take the relationship for granted. They do their jobs without too much supervision. The university is growing at a rate that I think, by providence, is enabling it to provide the best for the students with the facilities that are available, so that there is also space to develop and enlarge the facilities as the students are coming in.
All right. So finally, what do you want to be remembered for once you retire?
Oh, well, by providence, I'm the Foundation Vice Chancellor. There's no way you can forget that.
Sure.
So even that alone, I do not think I have anything in particular in mind other than for history to remember me as somebody who has very much considered that God is the foundation of this university, and everything that we do here has always been with the complete conviction that we have to do things right so as to please God, and in the process please both our employers as well as the entire country for whom we are preparing the students.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor, for featuring on our show today. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on the show today. My guest was Professor Steve Olaoluwa Afolami, the Vice Chancellor of Augustine University. For your inquiries and other questions, send all of them to the Sunday Interview at tvcnews.tv. Until I come your way next week, I remain Azizat Olaoluwa. Bye for now.